Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about Wi-Fi security. Now I've broken them down to today in 6 steps. I'm not going to go into too much detail as how you would do each one because each method or each control is going to be set up differently in different menu item on your wireless access point. But these 6 controls, I believe, when implemented properly on your network, increase your security drastically. Now I also want to mention that these are ranked from super easy to do to something that's a little more complicated, takes specialized hardware, that kind of thing. But I don't want to start an argument over which is a little easier as far as one thing or the other. It's really just a reference point. The real point of the video is that if you implement these 6 controls on your wireless network, you are going to be more safe than if you had any individual one only implemented. And let me go through those right now. So basically we have the longer, more complex passwords, hiding your SSID, of course MAC filtering, power limiting, radius server, and implementing that one of those, and of course a Kidsnet IDS or other wireless IDS on your network. And I'll go over each one for you as we go along. So let's just start with the first one, which is longer and more complex passwords. Now the problem with this this particular method that I'm showing right here is that actually it was shown that because you're using English dictionary words, you can actually break down a lot of that randomness because it's not so random when you have dictionaries that you can pull together to break it down. So besides this method itself not being so great, you do want to have longer, more complex passwords than just my Wi-Fi or get off my Wi-Fi or something like that. You want to implement substitutions such as numbers for letters, extra keys, asterisks, those kind of things. And the longer the better. If you can find a way to make it both long and easier to remember, that'd be great. If you have to write it down and store it in a utility closet, or somewhere where at least your family can get to it, that's still more secure. Though I do recommend some sort of other method. But the point is, the longer the better. Because with WPA2 and stuff, encryption and stuff being thrown on top of that, you're dealing with a whole new beast here. Now you have better encryption, then they have to brute force it, get more IVs, and just goes on and on and on. So the simplest security measure you can do is make a real strong password. Now moving on, building onto that, we're going to talk about hidden SSID. Now, SSID is whatever you named your Wi-Fi, whether that's Fedbus, or FBI office, whatever you named it. And that helps you find it, right? You go into your device, you can click on it. The idea here is that you already know it, right? And the people that you want to access your Wi-Fi can be told it. But it's not being broadcast. Implementing those 2 right there, really good, really decent security. But of course your devices have to broadcast out that they're trying to connect to this. So a persistent attacker, somebody in your office building, or etc., can just sit around waiting for your endpoints to communicate to that device and then discover your SSID. There are even methods to brute force it. Haven't tried it myself. It looks like a horribly long process, but it is doable. The waiting around for broadcasting can be done cheap, effectively, and it's very easy. Next we have MAC filtering. Each endpoint device, your phone, your DVR, your computer, has a unique MAC. So your daily computer, your laptop when you come home, your phone, all have known MAC addresses that you can get off of your access point device and essentially enable and say, if you don't have this MAC address, you can't connect to our network. So you look at those three together, you have MAC filtering, so if the device shouldn't even be talking to your AP, it won't. If you hide your SSID, they don't even know where to connect, and of course a long password, they have to crack it. And the idea here is you're making it harder and harder with each layer that you're throwing on there. Now I should point out that just like hidden SSID, the MAC address of any connected or otherwise trying to connect device does send out their MAC address. If they are connected to your AP and they use MAC address for that beaming and other. So essentially, even though you know and have your device MAC, only you know it, once they start talking, it can be discovered. And again, now we have a problem, right? Because now someone can spoof your MAC address and essentially start working their way back. You started off making it really where they couldn't even connect. Now at least they have a MAC. Now the AP is allowing them to make that handshake. They can use that to discover the SSID and work their way back. Power limiting. The big issue here is that most people want Wi-Fi anywhere they can get it. At your office, your house, you want to push as much power out, right? Because you want to use your phone right next to the wireless access point, but you also want to use it when you're in the middle of your yard. If you're sitting out back on the porch, whatever. And for most home users, this isn't an issue because they don't care about security. But my goal is to make you aware of some of this. And the problem is now your signal is far and it's getting out there. So people can go from having to be, let's say, in your house to actually just being in the yard with Yagi antennas, which are directional antenna, and amplifiers. Specialized compiled drivers to allow you to push up the power there on the actual device itself. You get a pretty good line of sight on a target, and you don't have to be close to that building at all. Some APs allow power limiting. I know ours here at Rekt Labs does. Some don't. So you really have to check inside your box or get a hold of support and see. Some of the ARIS modems definitely do. Third-party APs generally do. Most home routers don't, but hey, give it a check. Look inside, see if you can see it. If you see that option, limit it down and play around with it. We're trying to balance the CIA triangle, also known as a triad, and we're trying to really make you as secure, but we don't limit your access. If you do spend a lot of time in your backyard, laying under a tree, reading ebooks and streaming music, you want to be able to connect to internet. I get that. If you don't, if it's just occasionally, just when you're mowing the grass, or etc., maybe you can limit that. That one's for debate on who is going to limit their power for Wi-Fi. But essentially, that's a really good tool because if they can't even get your signal right, because we're talking transmission and receiving TX and RX here on Wi-Fi signal, so they have to be able to not only receive your signal but send out to it. If their only obstacle is that they have to get close enough to send it, well, they can up the power so they don't have to get as close. If they have to get right up to your window, at least you have a chance of discovering them right there creeping by your window or outside your office. Specifically if they have to sit inside the office for long periods of time. The next one is a radius server. So we haven't talked really about the different levels of encryption, and the reason why is because if you're using WEP right now, there's nothing I can do for you. There's WEP by most standards, if not everyone's standards, is completely outdated and usable, broken, and out of the box, I can't think of a single brand that has WEP enabled. Now, most come with WPA 2 and some sort of TKIP or otherwise. But what we're trying to do here is we're adding a login and password, right? An auth method to this. So essentially, this is a little more complex. Adding that, we would pump our encryption up to WPA2 Enterprise. It's going to ask for your Radius server, Active Directory, or Free Radius. Active Directory or Free Radius are two versions. Active Directory is by Microsoft, and Free Radius is an open source solution. But you hook the IP address up to the Radius server, and when people connect up, they're asked to log in and password, and then they auth to it, and then they're allowed. That gives you a little more control also over the users. You can, depending on the Radius server, you can set different options to kind of, once they're on there, to handle all kinds of funny situations. But this is the reason it's called WPA2 Enterprise is because most people don't. Now again, here at Rekt Labs, we have VMs all over the place. We have the hardware. It's no problem to spin up a VM and do that out. But if you have a spare computer, an old whatever 46, probably not a good idea. But if you got a decent computer in the last 10 years, I'd say you should be fine. You can run a Free Radius on there, and put that on there. Now, the circumventions of that are portal issues, different Radius servers. When they offer their portals, there's vulnerabilities within those portals. But now we're talking 5 layers in. Okay, so first, even if they can connect, they're having issues left and right because they have to get real close to your house. You have MAC filtering on. You're increasing the amount of recon that they have to do before they can actually start physically attacking your server. So you're keeping them in the recon stage, and the thing with that is if they're in the recon stage, you have a bigger chance of catching them for network anomalies. Once they're on your network, you can essentially use various techniques to hide your traffic. Only activate or mess around during peak times. Just make it really a pain in the butt. This right here is going to make that not impossible, but a lot more difficult. So that's about the end of the passive aggressive, as I like to call it, passive aggressive security methods of dealing with Wi-Fi security. Now, the last thing that I want to bring up, and this is why, is because it's a complicated setup, but when implemented correctly, you need specialized hardware, which is currently an AP that can take a specialized OS on it, shell in, install Kidsnet, etc., etc. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and that is a Kidsnet IDS. Now, Kidsnet running by itself can be ran on a standalone server. You hook a Wi-Fi in there, or a Wi-Fi card in there, and you're good, right? It's as far as it can read. It's going to be in promiscuous mode, and it's essentially going to look for anyone within a dome. But in a larger environment, especially in offices, you're going to want to install Kidsnet clients. Now, these are generally APs with modified software on there. And it's a specialty niche. I'm surprised no one has came out with a dedicated Kidsnet client. But as you can see, if you've already done the top 5, this is overkill. This is an active hunt for baddies, because this is going to look for rogue APs. It's going to look for various attacks going on against your Wi-Fi network, unauthorized devices. This is for super secure places such as maybe federal buildings, prisons, police, that kind of stuff. Places where security can take a proactive stance against and constantly be hunting, because when an alert comes up, you have to be able to act on it. So when you implement something such as this Kismet IDS, um, you have these Wi-Fi clients, APs, around the building in various locations, and their hardware is in promiscuous mode, and they're doing what that single Kismet server is doing, right? They're scanning the airwaves, looking for weird packets, they're looking for people trying to spoof Macs, etc., etc. There's a whole list. Kismet is a great application for site testing. Um, if you're going to do a site survey, you load Kismet up, you walk it around. In this case, it's kind of obvious if I'm going to be sitting in your lobby and I'm in the process of hacking you up, that I'm going to look and realize there's a guy walking around with an antenna on his lappy, and he's just looking for signals that are out of touch. If your company can afford someone to constantly do site surveys looking for rogue APs, et cetera, then more power to you. Most companies can't, and this is where the Kismet solution goes. So you essentially have these APs, those are access points placed around the building in essentially the border of different networks, and they're hunting. They're looking for these strange anomalies, and they're reporting to a centralized server. Now that server doesn't have to be anything beefy. It's just running a copy of Kismet in server mode, and it's taking the logs from each Kismet client so you can specifically narrow it down, right? So as you can see here, we have 3 Kismet clients. They would be named differently. One would be lobby, one would be this, one would be something completely different. And then my Kismet server, something would pop up and say, hey, we got this rogue access point that just popped up in the lobby. Because of the physical location of the Kismet client, I could then do a site survey with a Yagi, a laptop, go down, trace down the rogue AP, and disable it. So in a super controlled environment with all of these 6 steps going, you are more than ready. I mean, there's still a lot of training to be involved. There's a lot of your incident tiger teams, your incident response tiger teams need to be quick to their guns or specialized software to parse the Kismet logs, which is something, again, I'm not sure why anyone's not doing it. We might do it. Might be something fun to try. But again, it's at this point you're playing Tiger Pack. You're looking over your area of Wi-Fi signals and all the crazy packets that are coming across your network, and you're actively investigating anything that comes up. But you're really just going to see a lot of useless information. You're going to see new APs popping up. You're going to see broadcasts, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's about it. If you have any questions or if you want to get more in depth, you can hit us up. You can comment on the videos below. We'll respond to you. We're on Twitter, you can hit us up at www.rekstack.com, of course, HTTPS, and